G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On this episode, I am joined by Kurt from Walk and Stalk. How are you going, mate?
How you going, Zach? Thanks very much for getting me on. I'm going well.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, you popped up on my radar within the last month or so with Walk and Stalk. So watching along and seeing how that's developing, I thought I'd get you on to chat about it. It looks pretty cool, and it looks like it might be a game changer for hunters around Australia and possibly the globe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is a real game changer, and it's definitely something new and different, and there's nothing like it the world over. So, yeah, it's really good, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everyone tonight on this, and also, giving people an opportunity to get out there and do things better in the field.
No, that's awesome. So we'll jump in and get to know you better. Whereabouts you from?
So I live currently in Queensland, Australia, near Toowoomba, so the Darling Downs area. And I grew up not far from here, 2 hours from here, closer to Brisbane. So, yeah, I've sort of always been in Queensland.
Yeah, beautiful. And what do you do for work, or what have you done for work in the past?
Yeah, so working backwards, I suppose, up until recently with Walk and Stalk, I've been working as a high school teacher, math science teacher. I've done that for about 18 years. I was the head of Department of Science for 10 years. So spent a lot of time in the classroom, and I really ended up there out of my desire to spend more time not at work and, give me time in my day to get out. Teaching, as you know, it's pretty much governed by the school day length and school holidays. So yep. The real lure there was school holidays and short days. So obviously, 18 years in teaching, I was very committed as well, and worked hard and did a great job and helped a lot of people out there as well. But so that was sort of what I've done for the last 18 years, and I really did enjoy that time away from work, and that's obviously part of how I ended up a hunter as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
Before that, I did a science degree in biotechnology, so I'm a qualified scientist as well. So yeah.
Yeah, wow, full on. So yeah. How was it you actually got into hunting? Was it something that you got into as an adult?
Yeah, so I suppose on a larger scale, definitely as an adult. My father was he used to train gun dogs, retrieving gun dogs, and do waterfowl sort of stuff.
Yeah. So
he had Weimaraner dogs, and he did a lot of that. So when I was growing up, that was all around me at the time. It wasn't long after that the the Queensland changed their rules about hunting ducks and things. So that all sort of fell away in my early teen years, I suppose, maybe a little bit before then. And yeah, but he had shotguns and various things around that we'd have out with the dogs. So I was sort of always exposed to it. And then, I think really kicked off big time when I moved out here to the Darling Downs on a bigger property, and around me were properties with pigs and things, and guys out hunting them. And so, a guy at work sort of said to me, "You want to come out?" And I'd already got my firearms license on the way. And so that was when the hunting sort of really kicked off. And to start with, it was just pigs and, just to whistle a few foxes and nothing too serious. And fortunately had another mate at work who had a block with some red deer on it, and he invited me out. This is going back probably 13 years ago. See if we could get onto a red deer, and I managed to do that. So that was the start.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's pretty good starts on pigs and red deer. Not for people that have listened to the podcast before, they would know my struggles with pigs here in Australia. I've just had no luck getting onto them. So you're pretty fortunate there. But being down here in South Australia, we don't have too many pigs. But yeah, that's awesome. And I see you get onto some fallows, so it looks like you've got a good variety in your area.
Yeah, so that as you're probably aware, Queensland's pretty locked down with how you can hunt and where you can hunt in terms of access to forests and things.
Yep.
So a lot of that is travelling to New South Wales, and whether it be the state forests or some private property. So Queensland, obviously, private property you can access if you've got the connections, but like everything, everyone's got their blocks, and it's a little bit locked down as well. So bit of a mix between New South Wales, fair bit of time spent in New South Wales, to be honest, and then a little bit up here in Queensland, depending on the seasons and what's around.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, South Australia is much the same when it comes to public land versus private land. We can pretty much, apart from duck hunting, we can only hunt private property here. So, towards the end of the last year, I'm not sure if you heard or not, but bow hunting got banned in South Australia. So that was a big loss, because that was my primary way of hunting, was with a bow and arrow. So.
Yeah, I did hear that, and I shook my head. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. And hopefully things can change there for you.
Yeah, well, that's have to rely on politicians for that, and people to pull their finger out, and that's a big ask for people to do. Yeah, we won't hold our breath. No, definitely not. So when you head down to New South, is that public land hunting?
Yeah, it's probably 50-50 at the moment. So, state forests and, paid private land mainly. So, 50-50. And, we get results in both. Obviously, the private blocks, if they're new and they're not too pressured, they can be very productive. But there's been some trips where we've seen quite a few animals on the state side as well. And especially, if you're just out there for a good hunt and you're not, committed to a trophy animal or anything, there's definitely good opportunities there.
No, that's awesome. It's with New South Wales. How did you first go about going down to hunt public land with your R license?
Yeah, so I suppose I'll fill in the gaps. When I did that first little bit of hunting, mainly pigs and that red deer, I sort of then had 3 kids under 3, and my wife wasn't working for about 8 years. So everything was just family based, and the hunting really slowed down. I did quite a bit of fishing in that time on weekends, because I could just get away quickly and get back and not take too much away from the family in terms of helping out. But so in that time there wasn't much. And then I just sort of got to a point where the kids were that age where my son was interested and we could do a little bit together. And even for my wife, it was just a little bit easier for her. They were a little bit older. So I got involved with the Australian Deer Association here in the Darling Downs branch, and then that sort of kicked off everything in terms of getting the R licence and going along to, their meetings and hunts and so on. So, I got some great support there from Ian Hurley, who has helped many, many people, Ian from the Hunters Campfire.
Yep.
And he just sort of broke down a lot of barriers to kick us off. And I met a few other guys who were at my stage, and we sort of got together and, formed new friendships and did hunting trips together. So that was how it started. And we managed to get a deer on our first big trip to, a state forest where we were really targeting deer. And that was, where it all, went from there.
No, that's awesome. Great to hear that that like a group like that, like the ADA, is getting people out there, and having Ian Hurley out there. That's a definite bonus as well. So you couldn't get a better guy.
Yeah, no, I'm forever grateful to all the guys, and they're still around. A lot of them, mates and so on, who help me just sort of get boots on the ground in places, because they're big forests, and unless you sort of have the support or people to help you, even just with getting the maps going on your phone and things like that, there's just all these little obstacles that they just help you out, and I continue to do that now for new guys coming on board too. So it's sort of passing it all on is really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's always good to get other people out there and new people out. I try and get a couple new people out a year, but it's a bit hard with the limited private property I have access to. So, the state forests are a little bit closer to you. So, what are you? How far are you traveling to get to some of these state forests?
The closest is about 3 hours drive. And then you can go, obviously as far as you want down to the border of Victoria. But yeah, so yeah, 3 to 6, 7 hours.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, yeah,
that's
definitely some travel time. Yeah, but it's doable when you want to do it. You just make it happen.
Yeah, so I just did a trip up at the end of March, up to Bathurst area, and that was a 14-hour drive from Adelaide for me.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's big. I've done 2 trips to Victoria. They were both in about September for a week, and yeah, obviously they're big trips, sort of 16 and a half hours. So in the Bright area, we went. The ADA did 2 hunts there. So yeah, I have done the big trips on the road, and yeah, we actually weren't very lucky. We didn't see a lot of deer, so but that's okay. That's hunting, hey.
Yeah, that is hunting, and Samba country is pretty crazy. It's a lot different hunting to other areas, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think seasonally, we might have just missed them as well. So anyway, it didn't matter. They were great weeks away and great groups of people. So very memorable trips.
Oh, they're a cool animal. If you can get back down there, it's definitely worth it. They're gorgeous as well. Like just the size of them, and just the way that they move through that country down there.
Yeah, I did have one extended encounter with one, which ironically sort of is part of the reason the game bar came about with Walk and Stalk. I was on a slope on my own. There was a hunter on the other side of the crest, so we were sort of doing a valley each, and yeah, I was just poking along really slow. We didn't have heaps of ground to cover, so there was no hurry, and it was sort of warming up in the day, so hoping for things to start coming up towards me. And anyway, sat down for a little snack, and I actually had a back injury at the time, so I just decided to take it a little bit easy, and yeah, got up and walked 2 steps, and a roo sort of hopped off, and I watched that, and then I adjusted my gaze back to sort of where I was headed, and there was a Samba just staring straight at me behind a tree. And yeah, all I could see, it would have been perfectly broadside, but all I could see was sort of half a head at times, or just the base of its neck and head, and then just the back of its rump. So it was behind this really big tree. Turned out that was its bed. It had just stood up in its bed and looked up the hill to me. I worked that out later. But yeah, so we looked at each other, and I was just literally standing, in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have a rest. I didn't have anything. And I shouldered the rifle, not to take a shot, but just to see what I could see. And yeah, I wasn't confident. I didn't have much to shoot at. I wasn't going to try and head shoot a Samba offhand or anything like that. So yeah, we basically exchanged phone numbers, and then the Samba honked and ran off, and that was that.
How did you go with the first honk that goes through you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it actually honked and then honked and then honked and then honked, and then my mate came in on the radio, and he said, "Oh, you didn't get that one, did you?" He said, "I was listening for the honks, and once I heard a few more and there was no shot, I figured that was all over." So yeah, but no, it was amazing. And when I said we looked at each other for a while, it would have been nearly a minute. It was really, I put the rifle up and I put it down again and waited, because I thought maybe it'll just take a step. And yeah, no, it never did. But very, very memorable. And in a lot of ways, it was, just as good as having to make a shot, getting to spend that time with it.
Yeah, they're a very frustrating animal, they are, but awesome just to sit and watch anyway. And especially just how different their behaviour is to reds and fallow.
Yeah, so yeah, I've got plenty to learn about Samba, so I'm keen to put in some more hours in the future, that's for sure.
That's awesome. You mentioned that's where the idea of the walk and stalk and get the game bar come from. Let's jump into that. How that all come about? What is it, and how'd you make it come true?
Yeah, absolutely. So the game bar originally it wasn't as a rifle rest, but it is now. It came about from another trip where I was not multiple trips and my back pain, to be honest. Multiple trips bent over, harvesting game on the ground, and then having sort of dodgy hoist systems and things like that were a bit unreliable and relied on having a stick to spread the legs, and then the stick, all the bark would fall off in the dirt and crap and land on your meat anyway. And I was just like, this is just crazy. Like, we just got to be a better way. And I'd already looked at gambrels and things to see how you could hang deer. I sort of saw what was out there, and I was like, there's just nothing really quite right. And then I had a chance encounter with a guy. I was visiting my mother-in-law in Brisbane, and he's a guy who'd hunted a fair few deer years ago, and his hunting buddy had died from cancer, and he just wanted to reminisce a bit, and he got out some of his gear and showed me his Seiko and a few things, and he showed me this gambrel he used to carry in the field, and I was just like, man, like it's just too big, and had this thick wire cable on it, and obviously it worked, but I just sort of, it's just got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And so I just sort of thought about stuff, and obviously with my science background, understanding sort of physics and things, I just put together the idea of the game bar. So the game bar is basically a gambrel. It can then be used for a whole heap of other things. But the idea of it is it's lightweight, and it doesn't have wire cable or anything. The animal is suspended from a lightweight webbing, which is really strong, and it's connected to the animal through loops rather than hooks or anything like that. So you just form nooses with the loops, and that just cinches around the ankles of a deer or whatever part you want, and then you can hoist it up. And so the bar itself, the game bar, is really just a spreader that spreads the legs apart. So the whole system is engineered to support, at the moment, the one we've got, it can do a 200 kilo animal in the field, no worries. So that's pretty much all you need from most guys hunting, and especially if you are hoisting.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously beef it up and you can make it heavier and stronger, there's no question. But at the moment, the idea is to keep the weight to an absolute minimum and keep it compact and packable. And so it was a gambrel first, and I think that's really, well, it's important to me that you kind of recognise that. Like, that was the motivation initially, and then it's become a whole heap of things since then, because all I got thinking was, what else can I do with this? Like, there's got to be other ways. And yeah, so now it's like a 7-in-1, and it's all based on the same fundamental setup. So having the bar being telescoping in on itself means you can collapse it down or extend it out. So if you're happy to, I'll just give a brief summary of the sort of two main variations. Is that okay?
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'll stick with the sort of original size. So the original size was 42 centimetres collapsed down, and it extended to 74 centimetres long. And the recent release, the carbon fibre version of that, weighs 220 grams. So you're talking less than a cup of water. And with that, you can use it as a gambrel, but you can also use it as a game drag and a leg prop. So because that the webbing is sort of like a running line with loops, you can really easily reconfigure it and just have the webbing lying flat against the bar instead of up above it, and then hook the loops onto the legs or the antlers or the horns or whatever. And then you've got a really steady drag handle, and it's incredibly strong. Like, we've maxed out these in testing, and I've got probably about 8 or 10 guys that have been swinging off game bars and swinging deer off them and things. And yeah, it's truly amazing, the technology, carbon fibre. We invested a lot of time in getting the right carbon fibre. So we've got a 10-layer cross-strap weave. So it's incredibly strong, but incredibly light. So it's like over 5 times stronger than steel by weight. So that just gives you a bit of an idea. Yeah, really awesome. So yeah, so the game drag is another option. And then, of course, if you are processing on the ground, and sometimes you don't have a tree, or, for whatever reason, you just might not even have the time, you just want to quickly get the guts out and maybe even carry back whole, you can just, again, loop the loops on the legs and extend the bar between the back legs, and it just props the legs apart. And because the loops are attached to the legs, it doesn't fall down. So you can manipulate the deer really easily on the ground without having to sort of hold it up or prop legs up on your knee and things like that while you're getting in there. So and even, at night especially as well, it just keeps you a bit safer. A lot of deer, as you know, we take them right on last light, and then we got to get some work done on processing and things. So yeah, you can just prop those legs and then, with your head torch or whatever, get the guts out and then go from there if that's the way you want to do it. So that's the what we call the easy three. So it's easy to lift your deer, it's easy to drag your deer, and easy to prop the legs. And by easy, I mean, we're talking like less than a minute setup on each of those. Really, really quick, no tools, no extra sort of equipment needed or anything like that. So that's the original sort of size. And what we've also then got now is what we've got an extended version. So the Game Bar Carbon Plus, the plus means that it just goes longer, okay? And so it extends out from 50 centimetres collapsed and extends out to 170 centimetres, so 1.7 metres when it's fully extended. So that weighs 350 grams.
Yeah, wow.
So it's, slightly more weight, not a lot more, but just slightly more weight. And then all of a sudden it just opens up a whole heap of other options. So as well as being a gambrel and a drag and a leg prop and things like that, it's configured so that the webbing attachment is able to be removed from the bar, and then you can attach other attachments to it. So the other shorter carbon model is the same as well. You can remove the webbing from the bar in that as well, and then attach things as well. So if we just stick with the Carbon Plus, the longer version for now, you can use it for trekking. So it's like a hiking stick. It comes with a lanyard for your wrist if you want extra security. A foam grip so it's comfortable and a bit insulating on the cold mornings or whatever, and then a dedicated trek tip for all environments. So you can be hiking along, and if it gets to a real muddy section or something, you can just put on the mud basket, for example. It's got a snow basket as well that comes with it, and then there's some rubber ends as well if you don't want the pointy end. So if you're on grass a lot and you just want to just cruise along, you can just put those on. So it's basically built for all environments, for hiking. And then if you wanted to rest your binos on top, you can put a bino adapter straight on the top of that as well. And that just gives you the opportunity to glass really steady. So because it's so long, you can stand, you can, sit down on a log or something and adjust the height to whatever you need, just to get it, literally perfect comfort in any condition and any environment. And that just gives you an opportunity to last a bit longer in the field with your glassing and not give up too much. I know I've been lazy with glassing on some hunts and really regretted it later, but at the moment when I gave up and thought, I just can't see anything and just shaking too much now, my arms are giving up a bit, I just move off, and then you see some deer come from somewhere that you would have spotted if you'd have persisted a bit longer. So so that's the idea. So you can support your binos on there, or even other optics as well. So it's all very, we've got the gear sync adapter on there, so it's all really adaptable as to what you can put on the top. And then, of course, having all of these abilities, having a rifle rest isn't too hard to do either. So you can put a rifle rest on the top of it, and you can have it as a really steady rest from standing all the way down to sitting. Because you've got such flexibility in the length, it's just a really simple setup to get a really good shot off in the field. So if I'd had the Game Bar Carbon Plus on that trip in Victoria with my friendly Samba, I reckon I would have had my first Samba by now for sure. So a few people probably wondering about, how could you get the stability out of it, given it's a single bar, like a single pole. And the idea of it is, because it's got the trek tip, you can dig that into the ground in front of you and angle the bar back towards yourself, so it's sort of leaning back towards you, and you can lean into it then, and the bottom of it doesn't slip from the ground, and that gives you really steady rest then, because you don't have that forwards and backwards tilt that you can sometimes get from holding something vertically as a rest. So angling it back, leaning into it, and then holding it steady, it's just amazing. So there's the guys in the testing, they shot a fox at 180 metres off one, and I think if you ever want proof it's going to do its job in the field, that's a pretty small target getting it done. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, really awesome. I mean, I I was pretty amazed at that. Like, I knew it was steady, but they were confident and they got it done. So, yeah. And what else? The other thing with it as a rifle rest is just a single point of contact with the ground. So a lot of shooting sticks that are getting around, they don't collapse much. Like, they might collapse down about 70 centimetres long, which is still reasonably long. Like the Game Bar Carbon Plus, even though you can use it at full length, it easily fits in your pack. So 50 centimetres, I've just got a standard Hunter's Element pack. I've got other bigger ones too, but just my sort of day version. It just easily fits in there, or even just straps on the outside. So it's nice and compact, but then you get it set up and it's ready to go. And it's only got one point of contact with the ground. So when you're having to change things in the field, you don't have that issue of like a tripod where you've got 3 legs and they all need to kind of be touching the ground and stable. And I've had tripods before where I've set them up and, one of the legs I thought was in contact with the ground, but it was on this little flimsy stick. And then, I shift position a bit and then that leg moves a bit and I get really frustrated. And then you're feeling for the clips and things to adjust things. And yeah, it just takes the edge off the moment and sometimes you miss your chance. So with this, like you can put it in the ground where you want. Like if you're worried about noise, you can even just carefully look down. You got a single point there. You set that where you want, and then you can set your shot up really steady. And then, yeah, easy to change. Like you can pivot on the spot without moving the bottom. But if you do need to change, you just pick it up, reset it. So yeah, that's just a huge gain. And because of that angle that I explained earlier, it's it really is steady and it just does what you need to do. If you did want to have it as steady as a tripod and you've got other stuff in the environment you can rest it on, you can just hold it against the side of a tree and it keeps your rifle nicely off the edge of the tree because the rifle will sit in the V-rest and there's a bit of space in there. So on recoil or whatever, you don't have any damage. If you're out on the farm, like I scratched a few rifles on star pickets and barbed wire fences and things, shooting off wire. I think everyone's done that at least once.
100%.
Yeah, so you get your Game Bar and just either you can rest it on the wire if you want, just in a vertical position and just pinch the wire up against the bar with your hand, like hold it snug, or just hold it on the star picket or whatever fence post is there and just shoot off the top. And you get the height right too. You don't have to bend over, just get it exactly how you want it. So, yeah, so handy on the farm, but handy in the field. And, that's the other thing it can do. And then what else have we got? The smartphone adapter as well. So that's really just, for the people who sometimes get that good trophy animal on the ground and want a decent photo and there's just no way to get the angles right. So you put the smartphone adapter on the end of a Game Bar and hold it out a bit like a selfie stick. You can get a really nice shot and muck around with that for a bit and get a few really nice angles with you in the shot. And, the guys at the moment in testing, they're doing it, group shots, like they've got deer and 2 fellas in the shot, so they don't have one person off having to take the photo. So they've been enjoying that and things like that. So, yeah, so that's the other thing. It's also compatible with action cameras and digital SLRs and things like that. So my photographer who helped me out a bit, he's a mate first, but he's also a pretty handy photographer. He's just been to New Zealand and he took his to put his digital SLR on just hiking the hills there. So he was out there with his wife and they were hiking up and down some pretty cool wilderness. They weren't hunting, they were just there for the trekking side of it, just hiking. And yeah, he had his Game Bar with him and he was resting his big camera on top with a big lens to take some cool landscape shots and stuff and then, hike back down with it. So yeah, so it's really sort of universal in what you can do with it. So that's a bit of a summary of the Game Bar Carbon Plus. And yeah, the smaller ones, like the original Game Bar and the Game Bar Carbon, they are both able to have the same attachment. So you can also put a bino adapter on, use the rifle rest and have the smartphone adapter. So yeah, the attachments are all cross-compatible across all 3. So the one I haven't mentioned too much so far is the original Game Bar. So the original Game Bar is made from PVC pipe. So I make them here in Australia and we launched them last year in October at the SSAA Shot Expo. And that was actually the launch of Walk and Stalk. So we kicked off there and the idea came about. The very first Game Bar was made by me for myself back in May last year. And then I had some mates that saw it and went, can we have one? That's really cool. And then, after 18 years in schools, I'd have, been looking for a little bit of a change already. So I thought, hang on, this looks like something that would be good. So we made enough to go to the Shot Expo in Melbourne to, test the market a little bit and see what people thought. And yeah, so the original game bar is PVC, 330 grams, and so it extends to 74 centimetres as well and collapses down to 42. And it's just as good as the others. It does everything. It's obviously just that little bit heavier, and it doesn't have the carbon fibre ones have got a twist lock that locks the length, whereas the PVC one, I've got a range of holes, so you can adjust it just manually with a push pin that goes through, lining different holes up to, there's about 5 different settings, I think. Yep. So that's slightly different. And the original one is wrapped with PVC wrap, so it's got some pretty cool patterns and camo. And, if you want to stand out, there's some cool bright colours, or you can go with really natural colours, whereas the carbon fibre ones are just raw carbon fibre surface. So it's a nice matte finish and really slick and feels amazing in the hand. So
that's awesome. As you're going along, I'm on the website just following, like every time you mention something, I'm clicking and going back and forth between what you're talking about. So if anyone wants to picture it, jump over to the Instagram and the website. It's all pretty easy to find. You've got all the kits. You've got like a big bundle kit. You've got, the smaller kits, and you can just pick and choose what you want with them as well. It's a pretty cool idea. I like how you've, especially with the Carbon Plus, how you've just incorporated so much in it. Where it's the walk, like the hiking stick, where it's just everything in one.
You've summarised it well, Zach. It is everything in one. It really is. I mean, from the moment you get out of your car and start doing that first hike, especially if it's uphill, you've got something there that's going to help you with your efficiency. So using hiking poles, it's not something I've done a lot, especially the country I hike is not that steep, a lot of it. But having that little bit of time in Victoria, I can see there's a place for them. Absolutely. But yeah, you can be more efficient. A few of the New Zealanders I chat with, they're saying that, they reckon 30% more efficient, 20 to 30% more efficient using hiking poles. And that means you can, go further and hunt longer and hunt better through the day. So yeah, from the moment you get out the car, you can trek with it. Then if you set up somewhere, you can, steady your binos, then you can set it up, make your shot, or trek with it with the rifle rest on top, so you're ready to make your shot whenever you want. And then once the game's on the ground, take a few photos with it if you want, with the smartphone rest, and then into the game processing side, so you can drag it. If it's in a crappy spot, you're not going to break your back or scratch up your hands hanging onto its dirty legs or whatever. And then, depending on what you want to do, you can prop the legs, or you can find a tree and hoist it. And I haven't mentioned the lift kit yet, but the lift kit comes with the bundles. So all of the game bar bundles come with the attachment pack, which I've sort of explained most of the parts out of, and the lift kit. So the lift kit is our lightweight and compact hoist. So it weighs 350 grams and packs down to be sort of fit in your hand. It's only 20 centimetres by 14 centimetres in its bag. That includes all the ropes you need. There's a 12-metre rope and an 8-metre rope. So the 8-metre rope you throw up over the tree. The 12-metre rope goes in the double pulley system. The pulleys themselves, they're really strong stainless steel with nylon sheaves, so and a few stainless steel shackles and things. So yeah, 350 grams, and you can hoist a 200-kilo deer with it. That's all been load tested, and there's a big safety buffer there as well. So I've tested it, goes a bit past that, but just for safety side of things, we just got to have a buffer there. So 200 kilos, and you can get a big deer up off the ground. So that's the lift kit. So yeah, as you said, there's different options you can get, but with the bundles, maybe just so everyone has a bit of an idea, the Carbon Plus, which is really the ultimate because it's got that extra length, as a whole bundle with the attachment pack and lift kit, you're looking at 1.1 kilos packed. So that includes all the bags and everything.
That's awesome.
And every part that comes with it as well. So depending on your hunt, like if you're not going near snow, you can leave that little snow basket at home and save a bit of weight and space and things like that. But yeah, and the bag, just to give people an idea, is just over 50 centimetres by 17 centimetres. Nice little bag. So you can put your game bar, your lift kit, your attachment pack, everything in that little bag, and yeah, you're talking 1.1 kilos. If you go down a size to the game bar carbon, the bar is 220 grams, but packed with all of the gear, you're looking at 880 grams. So if you're not needing the trekking side and you don't want to sort of stand up and do your binos and your shooting off standing height, you can easily just 880 grams, have everything you need there. So pretty cool. And then the normal game bar, the original, the bar itself 330 grams, but yeah, fully packed with all the other gear is 960 grams. So you're looking at, around a kilo. I think you could just summarize all three of them, and then you just got to decide which one you feel you need. Obviously, the carbon fiber is much more premium, and having that extra technology in the material comes at a price. But yeah, we've sort of priced everything as competitively as we could, and to go out and buy all that gear separately, it all adds up and would go well in excess of what this system does. And no way at all would it be able to pack down and be as compact as this setup and so multi-use. So you're prepared for every situation. And I will add a couple little bonuses. If you're into backpack hunting where you camp out overnight, you take a tarp or a bivvy or a little tent or something, the game bar is a pretty handy pole as well, just at camp. So you can hold a tarp up with it, and you can use the webbing a little bit as a guy rope and things like that.
That's something I was about to bring up. It would be handy when you're out backpacking because you can use it on those lightweight tarp setups as the pole. Yeah, what caught my eye with it when you started posting up and I started looking at it was that, how it's got everything in one. Because, you go out on a backpacking trip, you're going to take a little tripod for your camera. You're going to take a hiking stick. You're going to take other bits and pieces. Where a bundle like this, you've got all of that in one. You leave camp for the day. You grab the stick out. You either put the rifle rest on top straight away, still use it as a walking stick with the rifle rest on top, and then you've got that quick rest in any position really, because the amount of times you're like, oh, I don't really want to take a freehand shot if I only had a stick or something to lean on. I remember a few years back, one of my mates made a shooting stick out of an old surf rod. He made it all down. It's very similar, but didn't fold down. And I remember using it plenty of times, chucking the pack as a stick and using it to shoot off of. I'm like, oh man, it would be freaking awesome if someone made something like this that was extendable. And that's what caught my eye straight away. And the fact that you can, drag with it. The amount of times I've stuck sticks in the back of the back legs there, and drag game across, and the pulley system's freaking awesome as well by the looks of it. The amount of times you're out there trying to hang a deer or a goat in a tree by yourself, and you're like, man, a little lightweight pulley system would be freaking awesome right now.
Yeah, I mean that's it, and I've lived exactly what you've explained. I don't doubt. Everyone's had a pain point somewhere in all of these different areas. I know there's a guy. His big issue was he wears glasses, and he's like, I've just hated using binos, and now I just love using binos. I can use them. I'm not too shaky, and it's kind of the way he feels like he can hunt better now. So everyone's got their own little pain point. My big ones obviously were my back, and that one with bending. So I'm all right staying upright, but I'd had back surgery 10 years ago. So if I spend too long bent, I just end up pinching that nerve a bit worse in my back, and it's not good for the next 2 weeks or longer. So being able to stand up and process game. And the other thing is it's obviously cleaner. If you can hang it up, it just stays so clean. And you can just skin it perfectly, and everything's fabulous. So I think you nailed it, mate. I mean, it's for the whole hunt, and that's what I've done it. And I think every little part of it, there's multiple things you can do. So I'll just sort of highlight one thing with the loop setup with the webbing. You're not limited to hanging a deer from those back leg tendons, which so many gambrels are. So so many gambrels, you've got those hooks that you'll cut that tendon space there and you'll push the hooks through, and absolutely they work. And in a butchering context, in a cold room and things, obviously that's probably your best option, no question, because you've got a big bench, you're going to cut the quarters off and lay it all out and get to work there. But in the field, that sort of can be fraught with danger, especially if it becomes a bit unbalanced, and that gambrel sort of tips and as you sort of partner it out, and then you end up with meat on the ground, whereas that's never going to happen with the loops. The loops just form a noose, and the noose tightens because of the weight of the animal, and that means that there's no way it's going to fall down. So obviously we've hung them by the back legs, and we've worked through and done the back straps, done the front legs, and then get to that point where you're going to separate that first back leg from the carcass, and you just do it. And there's different weight on each side of the gambrel then, and each attachment point then just redistributes the weight, but nothing falls down because it's secured in the loops. And that's just something that's a huge win. We had a lot of people in Victoria at the Shot Expo excited by that, just purely by that, because they'd been bitten that many times by gambrels that they continued to use that became a little bit unbalanced. And then, unfortunately the meat's on the ground and then you got to clean it up.
I've had that happen many times.
So that's never going to happen with a game bar. Just it won't. And if you're really fussy with your skinning and you really want to take right down to the leg, you can actually just put that loop around just above the hoof. Like, it doesn't even need to be that ankle. So so there's just, you can get maximum gain out of everything. Whereas if you've got the hook gambrels, you're obviously pretty much stuck with having to use that hock tendon. So so that's back legs, but you can, like I said, because it's sort of a loop and it's adjustable in size, you can go front legs, you can go around the antlers or the horns. So obviously the Americans, and there's a few Aussies getting on board too, hanging deer from their heads, head up and legs down. So you can do that. Hang it from the deer or the horns, or hang it from the jaw. You can just loop around the jaw. You can loop around the neck. So there's just so many options with however you want to hang your deer or connect your deer. Even for dragging, it's the same thing.
That's awesome.
If you don't want to drag them back, if you don't want to drag them backwards from the back legs, which if you do want to keep the skin, it can sort of scruff up the skin a fair bit. You can just drag them off the neck, or drag them, front legs, or if it's a goat or something, or a nice deer, just round the base of the horns or the antlers. So there's a little video that'll be coming out soon. It's actually the hero image of our website homepage. At the top, you'll see there's a pretty decent red deer. You can't see much of the deer's head, but you'll see that one. You know the one I'm talking about, Zach?
Looking at it right now.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool picture. That's the smaller carbon fiber game bar, so 220 grams, and that's one of our guys who's done a lot of field testing, and they got that nice, really big red stag on the ground and put the webbing onto the base of the antlers there and dragged him not a long way. He's very heavy. One guy, they wanted to see if they could do it, and they could. But beautiful. It was comfortable and got it done, and got it to where they needed to do it to get it to. So it's very, very versatile. So not only is it a gambrel, it's a gambrel that can attach to just about any part that you want it to, and then you don't have the issue of things falling down, and it goes on and on. So
Beautiful. Quick question with the spreader bar bit. So when you're using it as a gambrel and you're wanting to spread those legs out a bit further, how's it go with the weight once it's extended? Do you have like a limit on how far you recommend extending it when it's under pressure, or?
Yeah, no, that's a fabulous question and something we've played around with in testing for sure. So the answer to your question is 50 centimeters is pretty much the optimum width. 50 centimeters. You can, like the game bar carbon is 50 centimeters when it's, fully compacted down. So it doesn't need to extend at all.
Yep.
And that gives you enough width. The carbon model and the original game bar, they are only 42 centimeters. So you can just extend the telescoping part 10 centimeters and lock it. And then that's your 50 centimeters. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So that's all you need. On lighter game, obviously, you can go wider, but lighter game are smaller and their legs are already spread a fair bit anyway. So you don't have to worry. There's been, to be honest, a heap of guys have done deer just off the the 42 centimeters wide. Like they haven't even extended it, and they just got in and got it done. So yeah, 50 centimeters, I suppose, is the limit. You could push it more than that, and you can, but it does increase the pressure on the bar. And look, worst thing that's going to happen, it'll just sort of slip in. I don't think it'll slip. I mean, none of them have slipped, but that's probably all that would happen.
No,
Nothing's
awesome.
going to break or anything. Yeah.
Well, the gambrel that I'm using now is just a little plastic one from when I used to work at the abattoirs. They had a bunch of plastic ones broken in a corner. I'm like, oh, can I grab a couple of them? And I've used them for years. But yeah, I like the idea. You know, because I've come from an abattoir background. When working on game, I'm used to the animal hanging upside down and working on it that way. So, when you get an animal to the ground, it's an absolute bastard working on the ground when you've only ever really been used to hanging them up. So, even being by yourself and having the use of the spreader bar is a bloody great idea.
Yeah, that's it. Just on the ground. Like we did a recent trip, and it was sort of the final field test, I suppose. There was a group of us went out and we got about 8 deer, and one of them, we just looked around and we couldn't find a tree, and we'd hung all 6 deer already that trip, and we said, let's just do this one on the ground. Let's do the whole thing. Let's skin it. It was a really nice red hind with a really nice quality coat, so we thought, let's skin it and do the whole process on the ground and just see, let's just double, triple check that's as good as we know it has been in the past. And and it just went so smoothly. And having that leg prop, that bar between those legs, you could just lean on it. You could, stretch the leg out straight, especially when skinning, just to get the leg a bit more tension and things. And it was just so versatile to do it that way. And obviously hanging it's still great, but we were thoroughly enjoyed doing that, to be honest, and we were kind of chuckling a little bit. There was a couple of us there as we did it, just thinking, well, remember the old days when we used to struggle trying to half squat down and rest a leg on your shoulder and see what you were doing. And anyway.
So jumping onto the design aspect of it, how'd you go about designing it? How did you go about, getting it actually made? So from going from the PVC model to the carbon fiber model?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the original version was just something that evolved. So I made the gambrel what I thought would work, and then as I held it in my hand and sort of played around with it, like most things, you sort of make step one, and then you think, hang on a minute, look at that, I can do something else with that. And so it just went from one thing to the next. And so it wasn't all conceived on paper. The original gambrel sort of was, and then it just evolved as I sort of used it, and then got thinking about what else I could do with it. So the original PVC one, as I said, I just sort of chopped around locally and found parts and got the bits and pieces I needed to make them, and they're a really good quality product still, don't get me wrong. And still to this day, we've hung more deer off the original game bars than the carbon ones, but that's obviously the carbon ones have only been here for a few months. So the carbon ones, we've had to source them from China. The technology involved in making them, it's prohibitively expensive here in Australia.
I bet.
So So they are really fabulous, and did a range of sampling. So I contacted various manufacturers and did various sampling stages, and then got fussy about quality. And the quality from all of them, I will say, was very good. I have absolute respect for the quality that was coming out of the manufacturing places that I was ordering through. But I ended up going for the most expensive and the most premium one, just because, when you're out in the field and you've invested, how much time at work to save money for the trip, or to at least bank some holidays and get away on a trip, and then to be there, you just don't want anything to fail. You just want it all to work. So that was the mindset behind, let's just make it as good as it can be. And so I worked with those manufacturers, and then it was just a matter of tailoring and customizing and 3D modeling. So I've got another friend who was pretty handy on the CAD sort of software, so he would do bits for me. And so it's definitely a bit of a team effort. I'm not going to say that I'm a one-hit wonder. I haven't done the whole thing on my own. It's been out in various sheds over the time, mates' sheds and mine, and we've tinkered with it and re-engineered bits. And And then the same with the testing. So we've had various people testing it, including, people very independent of it. That, I gave them a brief introduction and said, just go and try it and see if you can break it. And I just want to know what it can and can't do. So, yeah. So that was sort of how it went about with the design. And I think I was hoping it would have been available for the start of the Raw and the Rut this year. When we got back from Melbourne in October, we had a lot of feedback from people there. If it was longer, we would have bought one. And that was a huge motivator to get the extended Carbon Plus version on the ground. So that process pretty much started within a month of being back with starting those negotiations with manufacturers and getting samples. And all of this takes time with freight and manufacturing and things. And then eventually getting it to the point where it is now, which is absolutely ready to go. And it, it's tried and tested and true, and it performs. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's sort of how that went. There was a delay as well in sort of going public with it. I had them, the original game bars, July, August last year. I started making them and a few people getting their hands on them. But with the intellectual property side of things, because it's so novel and innovative, it's simple in its use, but the combination of features and how they seamlessly integrate is really novel. There's, we talked about that at the start. So we've actually got a patent pending on it. So that process is all underway. So yeah, so now the intellectual property is partly secured. So we're able to go public and, push it all out there. So that was another thing. So yeah, so there's the intellectual property side and then obviously all the design. So different pressure points in different directions there, but the idea itself obviously has come from me, and yeah, we just made it all happen. And I've done all the sourcing and quality control stuff with the offshore manufacturing side of it. Another thing we spent a fair bit of time on was the webbing itself, because as you described earlier, like if you're out backpack hunting or whatever, you want the least amount of gear and you want it to do as much as possible. So when the carbon fiber came along, the bar was going to be lighter and stronger. So then it was like, right, let's see if we can do the same with the webbing. Let's go lighter, stronger, and smaller. So yeah, so it's, the webbing is 10 centimeters. No, it's not. It's 10 millimeters wide, 1 centimeter wide, and you can easily hang a 200 kilo animal off it. So it's really, yeah, it is. It's engineered to be ultra light and ultra compact, but ultra strong. So the weave they've used and everything we've been working on to get it to where it is now is all, completely intentional, and it took time and effort and, trialing and things like that. But yeah, no, it's ready and good to go. So yeah, so just, yeah, a lot of back and forth, and I will just say that I haven't been disappointed at all with the quality. I know the made in China side of things sometimes gets a bad rap, but I think it's like everything. You look at some of what's coming out of China now, in most of the electronic devices in the world and a lot of vehicles and things like that, I can definitely see from my experiences there that their quality is dramatically improving, and everyone who's ever put their hands on any of the Game Bar carbons is just, absolutely impressed by the quality. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny with that stigma made in China. There's nothing pretty much that's not made in China when it comes to these types of things, because they do have the technology, the factories, everything to be able to produce these things at a reasonable cost. And yeah, it's from camo brands to backpack brands to stuff it's all made over there, and a lot of the stuff comes out of the same factories. Whether it's certain camo brands, they all come out the same factory. Bits and pieces. Like I said, my background's bow hunting. A lot of the arrows, a lot of the broadheads, they all come out of the same factories, and people have had issues with they start selling the blanks of one and slightly chop and change it, and then someone else goes in there. But pretty much all the quality that comes out of it is reasonably good. It's only when people are really, really cheaping out on the stuff. And if it was to be fully produced here in Australia, you wouldn't be selling a bundle for just over $500. So That's the only way to produce stuff like that for, Australians can be a picky bunch, and, they're only going to spend money on stuff that they think that they're going to get, a few uses out of. So being with what you've got, you're going to be able to use it for a hiking stick, a shooting stick, a spreader bar, a gambrel, your lightweight setups when you're camping. So it's just incredible how you've incorporated so many different uses, even as simple as the little phone attachment. Like the amount of times I've tried to find a stick to balance my phone on, or a tree or a log or a rock. I've stacked up 3-4 rocks just to try and take a game photo of something I've shot. Just having that, you're able to use the hiking pole attachment, stab that into the ground, chuck your phone in, put it on selfie timer, and take a photo. Like that's genius.
Yeah, that's it, mate. You got it. That's the game bar. It's the system. It's one bar with no compromises. And I think it's worth mentioning the future a little bit of the game bar, because we've had some people make some requests of different attachments and things, and so the system will inevitably grow in its. It's already incredibly versatile, but it will inevitably grow in what it's capable of, and the attachments and things that will go on, and that's something we'll work towards in the future as well, for sure. So, and the compatibility will remain. So if people get, today's game bar, you'll still be able to get some fancy new attachment if it comes out next year, that sort of thing. So, yeah. And a couple of things I didn't mention, but, it is also pretty handy as a emergency splint. So if, snake bite or something, if something did go terribly wrong, it's, pretty handy there as well. And even as a balance pole crossing creeks, I've done a couple of creek crossings that were pretty hairy, and you can either obviously use it down in the creek to support you if you're walking across a log. They're the ones I'm talking about, walking across a log over a creek. Or you can just hold it out in front of you, and then get one of you across the creek, the one that's good at balancing, and the next one you can just hold the bar out, and you just got something to hold on to. So I've sort of done that with rifles before, where someone's safely holding a rifle, that's not loaded or anything, but holding a rifle out and you're hanging off the end of this barrel, poking along a slippery moss-covered log, and you just think, oh, this is just, could be messy, but anyway, you get it done. But there's just so many little things I think it's just going to do, and I have no doubt the more people that use it, the more uses will come from it. The last guys, couple of guys that I use that they use the game bar, and they've been testing it for me. They actually use the webbing to just tether the legs together on a deer on a sort of medium-sized fallow, and they put the bar through and just carried it out on their shoulders.
That was actually going to be one of my other questions, because the shooting stick that I was talking about before, I actually took that to Snake Island on my hog deer hunt, and I did the same thing. Taped the legs together, slid the bar through, and that's how we struggled to get it out. And I was thinking, as you were talking, and one of the reasons I asked the extending question, whether with it extended, can it take weight, whether you'd be able to do that with it as well. So you've just answered my question there too.
Yeah, look, that needs further testing. I'm not going to 100%. Look, I think it'll be okay. The way they did it, they tethered. The two front legs were tethered together. The two back legs were tethered together. So it wasn't just all four legs tethered. And then they obviously put the bar through, and then so the front legs were closer to one end of the bar, and the back legs were closer to the other end of the bar, up on their shoulders. And they said it worked. It worked fine, and obviously they didn't fully extend it. They made sure there was overlap between the different sections, just to give it a bit of support. But they showed me a picture of it and said, "Oh, you said not to do this, but we did it anyway." You said, "See if you can break it." But they said, no, it didn't break, and awesome. It was great. Thanks for the game bar. It just does another thing now. Thanks.
How good. Yeah. Well, I reckon it would do all right with a hog deer, because the hog deer I shot was 28 kilos gutted.
This would have been, 50, 60 kilos at least. Yeah. No.
Yeah, beautiful. Speaking of stuff like hog deer, what would be your top 5 dream animals to, money not being an issue anywhere in the world? Where would you go and what would you chase?
Look, this is something I've never really thought about until recently. Having the Walk and Stalk, this little business, has really broadened my horizons to the world, and I've got guys in Argentina messaging me, and obviously New Zealand and the UK, and people all around the world pretty interested in the game bar. So
that's awesome.
It really opened my eyes to Argentina, and obviously New Zealand's beautiful, and I'd love to spend a lot more time there, or at least get there on a hunting trip to spend some serious time in the Alps and things. But Argentina's really excited me, to be honest. They've got some spectacular chital there. I think chital are my favourite deer. They're just so majestically beautiful. And so I'd love to go to Argentina, and I'd love to just spend some time and hunt stuff that, look, I can't even remember the name of half of the species they've got over there, but there's a real mixed bag, and just get immersed in their hunting culture. And that's something that, I think, maybe next year that's probably going to become a reality. So that should be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, they got the water buff over there. They've got, what else do they have over there? Pigs, black buck, bunch of different things. It's a cool place. I've seen a lot of footage and a lot of photos of Australians getting over to Argentina hunting. So that whole South America, especially bottom of South America, is pretty cool.
Yeah, that whole sort of all through Patagonia there. So, I'm not a purist trophy hunter. I'll just make that clear. I'm a hunter for the experience of being in the bush, really. That's sort of what makes me tick. I used to watch Meat Eater when the kids were little, when they were babies, holding them, during the night. And I'd get on Netflix, and it was like going to church, It was just like you could just sort of be there and just go, yeah, this is what life's all about, like getting out there and just enjoying, the serenity of it, and, the minimalist style of life. We have so much around us at the moment that distracts us from our own humanity, I think, and who we really are, that it's just so good to be out there. And I'll be the first one, and it does annoy some of the guys I hunt with, but I'll be the first one if we're out hunting to just, if I see some game, rather than just take the shot, I'll be like, come up and have a look, and then we might miss the chance and then not get a deer. But I don't know, like, it's just something that it's just nice to be there and just share the moment. And, it's not all about the shot, and it's not all about the trophy and things like that. But, and with my kids coming through now, it's nice to be able to share that with them. And they not just learning to hunt, but just learning to be the way I think we're meant to be, just, move slowly and look around and take it all in. And
100%.
I sort of find wherever I sit when I hunt, you see stuff and you just think, imagine how much we walk past that we don't even realise, because if you sit down and you look around, there's stuff like right next to you on the edge of that log, or there's, some tracks that you wouldn't have noticed and things like that. And so I think it's there's just so much out there that we just walk past. And if we all slow down a little bit, I think we'd all be better for it as a group of humans.
Yeah, that's it. One of my favorite questions of the podcast: what is hunting to you?
Well, I think I sort of just summarised it a little bit. Hunting to me is an opportunity to get out there and be a part of, the simple life, and to wind down, to slow down, and find myself a little bit, just get back to my own tempo and not the tempo of the busyness of society and life around me and people and things like that. Working in education, you see hundreds of people every day, and varying levels of maturity and things like that. So you're constantly bombarded with humans, I suppose, and the good side and the not so good side sometimes. And that's not anyone's fault or anything, but that's just, I
can imagine.
That's what happens. So, so it's just been nice to just get away and wind down. And I just find, like day one of a hunting trip, you're still a little bit, cooked in the head. And then day 2 or 3, you just settle in and you just feel so good. It just feels so good. And you can walk crazy places and enjoy every step. And the adventure of it and things like that. So that's hunting to me. It's just a chance to get away and go for a walk and carry a rifle and maybe get a game animal on the ground and maybe not. And not every hunt is defined by the success of the, what you take home. Definitely not for me anyway. It's just about the journey of it and the experience.
Oh, I think a lot of people are like that these days. They're stepping back, and it's not just the success; it's being out there, it's the exploring, it's the people you meet and the friendships you make, especially around the hunters' campfire. Shout out to the Mark and Ian and the boys. They definitely celebrate a lot of that when it comes to their podcast and the things that they do based around the podcast with their get-togethers and their group hunts. So I just love everything about that. Meeting new people. I'm constantly traveling and heading out hunting with people that I've only just met or only spoken to on Facebook and Instagram. So it's, the whole community is really good for that type of thing.
It absolutely is. And it's really nice to have that. I think it's like-minded people coming together. It's definitely easy conversation around the campfire.
Yeah, 100%. Well, got to wrap this up. As I discussed with you at the start, I had to run off of my phone for internet tonight because our internet's playing up, so my phone's just about to die. I hate to wrap it up so soon, but we can definitely catch up once you've got more products and it's tested more, and I'll definitely be looking at getting one when my budget's a bit better, but it's definitely a cool product, and I'm definitely keen to see more people using it and see how well it's recognised out in the field. So thank you for coming on. I only reached out to you this week to chat about it, but really appreciate it. Where can people go to find more about it? You have got YouTube, Instagram, website.
So our new website is walkandstalkstore.com, and it went live about a week ago with the new Carbon Series game bars. So they're just a new release. So walkandstalkstore.com, or just Google Walk and Stalk and we'll come up there as well. On the socials, we got Facebook, Walk and Stalk, and Instagram is walkandstalk_lift your game. So lift your game is our little slogan. So you can literally lift your game with a game bar, or, if you think of it in the second meaning, it's doing it better, more efficient, more effective, safer, easier, make hunting more enjoyable. So walk and stalk _lift your game. And then YouTube is Walk and Stalk as well. So yes, that's where you can find us. I'll just quick shout out as well to Gillar Hunting. They're our brand ambassadors. They've been monumental in the support they've given us in terms of testing. They had a lot of hunts that they were able to do when I was busy stuck in product development and sorting out, the business side of things. So they were getting out doing a lot of field stuff, and some of the improvements we made were from them. So Ben and Rusty at Gillar Hunting.
Beautiful.
Get on board with those boys. They're great fellas and great hunters as well.
Yeah, I've definitely seen them kicking around the socials, so I'll have to make sure that I'm following it once my phone's back on full charge. Bloody technology. It makes everything better, but it's also a pain in the ass as well. But thank you, Kurt, for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's awesome to learn more about it, and I just wanted to wrap it up before my phone cuts out and the internet cuts out, because that would have really sucked just to be like, oh, yep, bye.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
That's all good, Zach. Thank you so much for having me.
Nah, all good. Anytime.
Yeah. If anyone wants to contact me direct, just jump on the website. My phone number's there, email. Got any questions, let me know. No hassles at all.
Easy as, Kurt. Thank you very much, mate. Catch you later.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.